All right, welcome to how to make a stencil font. So there are specific fonts that can be used to make stencils, but it may not be the font that you want to choose. So we're going to look at how to create a stencil font or a stencil out of any font. This method really works with any object, not just fonts. So we're going to first take a look at what we have in the issues that we have for cutting something like this out as a stencil. So I've already got one toolpath here that I have labeled as fail. So we're going to take a look at what this preview is and see what and the reason why it has failed. So it looks all right, but to use this as a stencil, when this is cut out, we are going to lose the center objects of every one of these letters. So it is not going to look um, as you would expect it to look. We want to be able to hold in these little center parts of every letter or the center parts of any object. So we're going to create little tabs, mainly creating little tabs, not within the toolpathing, but within the drawing side of Vcarve Pro. This also works in Aspire just the same. So this is the one that I've already created the toolpath for. And what we need to have here are little tabs and split this line or be able to keep those together. So I'm going to start off with just drawing in a rectangle, sizing it to where it's small enough to hold together, but or small enough to really not be noticed, but big enough to still hold everything together. So with that one created, I'm just going to make a duplicate copy of that same size rectangle to every other letter that needs to have this operation done. So by holding the Control key down, as I drag this object around, it is going to make a copy or a duplicate copy of that with every time I move that. So I'm moving it down here on the letter A, just using the keypad to bump that up a little bit. And again, on the E, I'm going to go on the top side and using the arrows to move that over. And then we also have another O over on font. So once we get it to this point where we have created where we want to have that split or the tab, there is the first we have to do is create and convert our text to curves. This is, once we do this process, we're not going to be able to edit as text anymore. It is going to be treated as any other vector. So the convert text to curves is here. So at this point, even though it is still words, it is no longer text. It is basic geometry vectors that we're able to manipulate just as we would any other drawing object. Now we can possibly use the subtract weld methods here. I've not had great success with it always creating it where I want it to be. So I prefer the trim and interactive trim tool here. So I'm going to click those scissors and just trim away the sections to create that stencil font. And again, holding the mouse down as you drag over top of a line is going to just trim anything that comes in contact with that mouse as we move along. And I see I've missed an E. So before I trim the last of the rectangles, just going to make a duplicate copy of this one, move it over, and go back into the scissors to remove the bits. If you grab a line that you don't, the famous Control Z will undo. So now when we go to toolpath this, it is going to look and keep everything built and put together. So I'm just going to come in here and do a double click on that fail to now also include the new trimmed version. Come down and calculate. And we'll just do a reset and preview all here so we can see the differences between the two. So as we saw the first time, creating and when we cut this, these letters would then be removed, or the little bits inside of the letters. But on our new version that we've created down below, that bit is now holding, and those tabs are holding that font together and all the internal vectors of that font or object together, and it is not being removed. So hopefully this helps show how you could make any font or really any object into a stencil.